It began with exile, but ended in empire when Usman ben Fodio raised a flag of jihad in 1804. It wasn't just a call to battle. It was a call to cleanse a broken land. His enemies were kings, but his army, ordinary people with extraordinary faith. At Tafkin Kwato, his forces met Gobir's army. Steel clashed, dust rose, and when the smoke cleared, no fortress too thick, the people tired of injustice opened their gates. The movement had begun. From Gobir, they pushed west to Kebi, then south to Zamfara. Each kingdom fell like dry leaves before a storm. Many joined the jihad willingly. Others fell after fire and resistance. He swept through Kano, Katsina, and Dora, kingdoms with centuries of history reborn under new rule. His warriors moved fast, horseback riders across rivers, deserts and savannas. In the Battle of Alcalao, the last stronghold of Gobir fell. Their king, the old, betrayed the scholar, but the scholar returned with destiny. By 1808, he had conquered over 15 city-states. By 1809, a new capital was formed, Sokoto. But this wasn't conquest for glory. Where others built statues, Dan Fodio built schools. He raised justice. His warriors fought. But his ideas led. This was jihad, yes, but it was also revolution. No palace was too high. Dan Fodio stood victorious. The battles had been fought. The kingdoms were conquered. But for Usman and Fodio, the real work was just beginning. He did not sit on a golden throne. He did not demand worship or riches. Instead, he handed power to his son, Mohammed Bello, and his brother, Abdullahi. Two men raised not as soldiers, but as scholars together. They built an empire on faith, education, and law. The Sokoto Caliphate became a beacon. Hundreds of Islamic schools opened. Kingdoms were ruled and wars were fought. Villages were burnt, he warned future rulers. Rule with God's law, not ego. Serve the people, not your pride. For once Dan Fodio's pupil was struck down. Where others raised taxes, he withdrew into war fighting. Desert, dust, storm. Warriors on horseback charged with spears raised. For faith they rode, swift as the wind. A Fulani warrior smashes through a wooden gate as drums thunder. Walls fell, kingdoms trembled. In the quiet of night, Usman dan Fodio sat with his scribes, a fire in his eyes and a vision in his heart. The jihad had just begun, and many more lands were yet untouched. Scrolls spread before him marked the names of kingdoms, Gobir, Katsina, Kebi, Balchi, even Borno. Each one stood as a symbol of corruption, of leaders who had strayed from the path of truth. He summoned his loyal lieutenants, men of faith, strength, and conviction, his sons, his brothers. Together they formed a council of war. They would not just defend, they would cleanse. It began with a call for help. Afanja, the general of Ilorin, rebelled against the Oyo Empire, tired of weak kings, tired of empty commands. He wanted independence, power. So he did the unthinkable. He invited the Fulani to join his cause. Among them came a man of faith, Shehu Alimi, a scholar, a strategist, a man carrying jihad in his heart. Together they drove out Oyo's forces. Victory seemed sweet, but Afanja had opened a door he could not close. While Afanja held the sword, Alimi held the people. He preached. He converted. Too late, what started as alliance, the betrayal came. Swift, silent, deadly. Afanja had meeting with his king's men about what he suspected. The banner of jihad flew in the south, and Ilorin was never the same again. Afanja saw it. Afanja, Oyo's general, invited the Fulani to help him break free, but it was a fatal mistake. The Fulani turned on him, and Ilorin became an emirate, a dagger thrust deep into Yorubaland, and he paid with his life. Nestled in the southwest of present-day Nigeria stood Ogbomosho, fierce, proud, and unbroken. Once a refuge for the displaced, it would become more than a city. It would become a symbol of Yoruba resistance against the advancing tide of the Sokoto Caliphate's jihad. From the ashes of the old Oyo Empire, city after city fell. Kano, Zaria, Katsina, then came Ilorin. As the mighty Oyo Empire crumbled under rebellion and weak leadership, a new force rose in the north, the Fulani Jihad. Led by Usman Dan Fodio, city after city fell, and the blade of Jihad Caliphate was buried in the heart of Yoruba land. The people fled south, one name pass between lips in the hope Ogbomosho. The drums of war beat louder. No more debate. The time had come. Beneath moonlight, warriors took sacred oaths. Men stood with machetes, muskets, and charms. Son Idal Balanta Adidin led them with calm defiance. Ogbomosho stood like a stone in a rushing flood, the last stronghold before Ibadan. The gates opened, and the warriors of Ije marched in. Proud, fierce, ready, Ogbomosho prepared for war. Men stood with machetes, muskets, and charms. Warriors from different states came to help Ogbomosho in the war. Son Idal Balanta Adidin led them with calm defiance. That night Ogbomosho prepared for war. When the enemy came, they found not fear but fury. Under cover of darkness, Ogbomosho's warriors struck like thunder, silent, swift, united. War cries shattered the night. Chaos exploded. Flames rose. Spears clashed. They fought not for glory, but for survival. And when dawn broke, Ogbomosho stood strong, and the Fulani were defeated. The war wasn't just fought with weapons. It was fought with wisdom, prayers, and unity. Women supported from behind. Elders gave counsel. The people stood as one. In the end, Ogbomosho stood tall, undefeated, unbroken, and forever proud. This was not just a military victory. It was a message. Some lands may burn, but others fight back. War cries. Blades clashing. The Fulani charged, but they didn't know the land. They galloped into narrow paths, only to be ambushed by warriors, who vanished into trees like smoke. Arrows flew from above. Traps snapped from the ground, and drums pounded in the distance like thunder. Warriors in fast movement, slashing through the undergrowth, encircling enemies. Fulani troops scrambled, confused. The Ogbomosho hunters didn't fight in straight lines. They fought like shadows. They struck from every side, then disappeared into the dark. Women tossed hot sand and boiling water from rooftops. Children ran messages through secret paths. The town was alive in battle. Scene: a Fulani. Leader yells orders, suddenly struck from behind by a young warrior with dual blades. The army begins to break. Their horses slowed in the thick bush. Their weapons were too long for the close quarters. And then came the second wave, elder hunters, faces marked by years of war. History isn't a dusty storybook. It's a mirror. Ogbomosho teaches us that the greatest walls are built from unity, not stone. When betrayal toppled the mighty Oyo, it wasn't sheer force that saved the South. It was hunters, farmers, and blacksmiths who refused to break ranks.